The Ouroboros is an ancient symbol that depicts the eternal cycles of life, death, and rebirth. As a motif, it often depicts snakes or dragons swallowing themselves whole, devouring the old in order to rush in new life and body. However, the means of destruction to its own self, it lasts in eternity. One must wonder, why must the Ouroboros devour itself in order to live on? What good is a fate resigned to useless conquering of old flesh and bone? What is the cost of living forever? And what is it feeling as it revives itself infinitely? Tears of the Kingdom is a game largely defined by the cruel effects of change. The cycles that shape a series as beloved as The Legend of Zelda have carried it all the way up from the release of Ocarina of Time. Breath of the Wild marked a defined change in the series, and all at once, those cycles were broken. E3 2019 marked the beginning of a seemingly insurmountable task. A direct sequel to Breath of the Wild was announced to be in development. Immediately, speculation and hype began to build for a series that had so recently broken into the mainstream with a fervent roar. Breath of the Wild was already so realized, so perfect in so many's eyes. How could it possibly be topped? I'm going to really try to keep this script from sounding too wordy, but it's really not natural to me, especially when I'm talking about things I'm passionate about. Alongside other Nintendo series, The Legend of Zelda marks so many remarkable adventures for me. From the somber yet vitalizing Dark World and Link Between Worlds, to the ever-rushing waters of Wind Waker. 2D or 3D, I have cherished these games since I was old enough to hold a 3DS, and that comes with an intense love for Breath of the Wild. I might have a slightly different background than most, as Breath of the Wild was actually a childhood game for me, as I was a much more casual fan before its release in 2016. I experienced the Zelda series way earlier on, but never really dug much into the lore or the world until the release of that game. I remember the winter break I bought it for Christmas, along with the Switch I saved up an entire year for, and it was absolute magic. To this day, I cannot recall any memories in gaming as fond as that first playthrough of Breath of the Wild, trying to climb the slippery cliffs of the Lanayru region, and pissing myself seeing a Lionel draw its bow for the first time. Watching Zelda's struggle to awaken her gifts really got to me, I remember. Exploring the broken Hyrule filled me with so much sadness and reverence that I ended up getting just emotional walking through the open fields. A few times, even. So there is nothing but sincerity in me saying that Tears of the Kingdom deserves the respect its predecessor got. It is a true masterclass in game design, and a true reminder that games can be art. I don't quite know how I'm going to structure this yet, but I'd like to make it clear for anyone watching that this isn't going to be a review of every aspect of the game. Tears of the Kingdom has its problems, definitely, but I think it would be redundant at this point to mention them. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are most importantly reminders that no game will ever truly be perfect. I just think some of the online discourse doesn't properly convey how thoughtful and purposeful this game's design really is. It is definitely an experience that was more meticulously designed than people give it credit for. Just as a heads up, I'm going to keep coming back to the Ouroboros image thing. It just helps me explain how I feel about this game. My relationship with Tears of the Kingdom is not one that starts in simple idealism. I went into the game with very tempered expectations, as the previous game, Breath of the Wild, set my expectations so high, I practically knew they weren't going to be fully realized. Reuse of the game world made it really hard for me to justify buying it in the first place, as it really seemed as if the story was the only new major content added. I also didn't just want to buy a game with nothing but additional content. I really wanted a better crop of dungeons and a more robust story. But I eventually caved and played Tears of the Kingdom for myself less than a month after release. And it wasn't magic. At least not in the way Breath of the Wild had been. The dusty paths I once traveled all remained similar, trailing off to similar locales, while feeling different enough. The dungeons and characters were fun, and the final battle with Ganondorf was pretty great. But it had just felt like a great experience. I didn't feel the magic I was hoping for. I put the game down after finishing and seeing the credits, and didn't pick it up again for close to a year. Coming back to Tears of the Kingdom then was more of a spur of the moment motivation than anything that ended up becoming a full circle moment. I remembered the Switch 2 edition improvements and thought to give the game another go after the hype died down. What I ended up experiencing this time was a world that slowly but surely radiates the love that was poured into it. Tears of the Kingdom is a masterclass in subtlety. I know that sounds strange coming from a Breath of the Wild fan, as it did to me the first time I realized it. That game is also a masterclass in subtlety. Almost everything I loved about that game, the understated story components, emotional core, and overall themes, shine only when given the time to truly let them sink in. I think Tears of the Kingdom accomplishes the same goal in its own way. Tears of the Kingdom never sings the praises of its own world, blossoming into something new. It instead invites you to see how it's progressed since the calamity for yourself, for you to tell yourself the story of its development. I think the developers knew that ultimately, this was the point of the game. Almost every gameplay change, story development, and gameplay loop is built towards supporting this Hyrule to tell its story. This was something I just didn't understand the first time through. I was disappointed by a lack of Sky Islands, all while missing the views of Hyrule below. I missed the point of these new additions and viewed them instead as missed opportunities, like most people did. On the second playthrough, I developed a real respect for how they utilized the improvements to Hyrule. For example, on my first playthrough, I went in with the approach that the Sky Islands and the depths were meant to reinvent Hyrule from a content standpoint, but I was wrong. This time around, I realized that instead of simply trying to reinvent Hyrule by quote-unquote adding 2 Hyrules on top of one, like I expected with the addition of the sky and the depths, they used these improvements to help the whole of Hyrule shine brighter than ever. In order to tell that story, I think it's important to first discuss the gameplay that makes such a realization possible. Most people praise the new additions to Link's arsenal in this game. It's actually one of the few mechanics in the game that isn't universally divisive. Ultra Hand, Fuse, Ascend, and Recall all do an immense job at lifting the gameplay experience up from Breath of the Wild, in my opinion. The nearly endless ways to use your own creativity in combat and exploration is an overwhelming achievement. But what I found particularly impactful this go around was how they helped you explore the world's themes of connection. Nothing in this world felt out of reach at any point. Unlike Breath of the Wild, the world opens its arms to you, invites you to traverse every corner, high and low, from the very beginning of the adventure. In Breath of the Wild, the brilliance of the game comes from the challenges in traversing the open world. The player's own curiosity served as fuel to keep the experience of discovery going. In Tears of the Kingdom, this has changed to reflect the player's own agency more. You are the one connecting Hyrule together this time around. The world is no longer your adversary, but a companion in and of itself. It helps you to reach the heights of your imagination and band the world together against the evils that plague it. All the breathtaking mountaintops serve as launch pads to the serenity of the skies, and the sky itself serves as a dive board to the intimidating depths. They all serve each other in this game, and I found it to be graceful additions to an already full world. Unlike Breath of the Wild, the world in TOTK beckons with hope and a love not really present in the former. The more somber notes of the original, while excellent, are replaced with a love that is felt in every sense while playing. Some people think that these additions, while very creative and powerful, make the game too easy, too open-ended, and remove the challenge from traversing the open world. I agree with this complaint, up until the point that the challenge is completely removed from the open world. If a game presents you with every option from the very beginning, and players naturally choose the most optimal to help them explore, like I did on my first playthrough, hoverbike, looking at you, why spend time interacting with the world at all? Riding horses or simply climbing? Why? You can just build a proficient machine and dramatically remove any challenge of traversing the world. This is where Tears of the Kingdom makes itself stand out from any other open world game, including Breath of the Wild, because it fully agrees with the player here. The developers definitely knew this was possible. They decided to leave it in, this autonomy, because it means the players who don't use these methods are actively choosing to connect themselves with the world. It's no longer mandatory to interact with the world, which makes the choice to all the more special. Sure, they could have tried to limit these options more to keep the player from cheaping out. Hell, we all know they had time to figure that one out. But the true commitment of this game to the player is something commendable in my opinion. It connects everything you do to the beauty of its world and its history. For example, the game uses Zonai devices not only as a way to bolster your travel, but also as a way to describe the creativity and limitless knowledge of the Zonai. Or the way Recall is used to demonstrate the game's attention to its own history. They use the gameplay to amplify the experience of Hyrule in a way that makes the climactic ending feel more like a celebration of an upcoming triumph over evil, rather than a reclamation of a lost, broken world. This design makes Hyrule itself feel as if it's growing with you, and as you progress through the game, gain new forms of movement, and uncover the story, tiny little lights of hope start to beckon across the land. Characters that used to forebode a horrible calamity are now free and rebuilding themselves in or outside of Hyrule. Rest in peace, Kaz. New people have called Hyrule home and are using each other to help connect and unite against a common threat, knowingly or not. Schools where children learn to love and grow are constructed with the help of Princess Zelda, and new life is born. In fact, plenty of side quests in this game deal with this central idea of bringing hope to one another. The Korok seeds take new forms as travelers who lose their way, getting lost and eventually finding their friends with the help of the player. The Lucky Clover Gazette is one of my favorite quests in the game for this reason. The world has begun to heal with the help of those in the present and the past. Rauru, Minoru, and the Sages of Light, the champions in the hand of the Sheikah who built their divine beast, Link himself, the hero of the wild, and countless more across millennia connect the world itself to a hope present in moment-to-moment gameplay. Just as it once was tied to ruin. The dragon of light that has flown above you your entire adventure in this game, Zelda, has accompanied you since the very beginning of it. Just like the game world, she remains completely tethered to the history and the connections of this Hyrule, and the eventual end of its biggest, deepest evil. The love the developers felt creating the world and its mechanics is instilled into every fiber of Tears of the Kingdom. This Ouroboros, the Ouroboros of love, instills itself in even its titular character, Zelda. The game never needs to tell you of this love. which I think makes it easy to miss on a first run through, as I certainly did. It instead asks the player to connect with it without judgment on how they choose to do so, and I think that that's a remarkable achievement. I think that it's important before I begin to sing this story's praises to acknowledge the complaints people had playing Tears of the Kingdom story. I shared the majority of those complaints on my first playthrough, so I think it's important to understand that these stories are inherently subjective, and that my own opinion on the story drastically changed once I sat with it longer and learned more about it. It's my opinion that everything in the story that isn't directly stated has a direct explanation through the use of the game world itself, Zelda's memories, a companion dialogue found in the Zelda's Notes app peripheral, or a gap meant to be closed by the player's imagination. I really think it's a straight up incorrect assumption to just think this uproots Breath of the Wild's canon, like I used to think, and like so many still do. I know that's a really tall order, so I'm gonna address some of these in like a list-like fashion to help trim runtime. This section isn't meant to slam anybody's opinions down, it's just meant to remove some of the barriers that might inhibit somebody from enjoying the story the same way I did. The world building in TOTK is not nearly as disjointed as many choose to believe. BOTW's Calamity is a conflict that is over 100 years old by the start of TOTK. When you think of the world building with this in mind, it becomes a lot easier to see why the devs handled the Calamity and its main characters like they did. The champions themselves remained spirits for over a century and finally got their long-deserved rest as of TOTK. Multiple monuments to the Calamity are all erected by Princess Zelda, who likely remains as one of the last individuals in Hyrule who truly remembers its horrible events. People forget that of those involved in the Calamity's cruel wake, not many at all survived. This is referenced directly in the game's depths, as spirits carry the weapons they perished with, right under those monuments we just discussed. Oh yeah, and what's this I wrote? People remember Link. There is such a large group of fans who think Link is somehow not remembered as well as he should be for his acts as the hero of the wild. I should know, I used to be one of them. Not only is this provably false, but it actively shows a disconnect from how Link is characterized within these two games. The people who do remember Link, all of the main cast, plus those who heavily helped Link throughout his adventure, still do remember him. People don't really have photographic memory, as apart from the Zoro, a group of people who live much longer lives, no race seems to remember Link. I guess people have forgotten that Link is a traveler. He is characterized in Breath of the Wild as a stoic amnesiac, yet for some reason people want him to make an incredible impact on nearly everyone he's met in Breath of the Wild, as if the people of Hyrule didn't have their own lives to live. It makes even less sense as a critique, because it's way more in line with Link as a character. He wouldn't even want the title of Hero of the Wild. He is known for his stoic nature, and the nature of an evil calamity itself isn't and would not be a popular subject 100 years after the fact. Why would you expect people to remember him? Why would he expect people to remember him? That honestly would raise way more questions than answers. And that's still not to speak of the respect the game does give the champions in the Zelda Notes peripheral, because Zelda remains as one of the last people who are intimately connected to those characters. It just makes sense, and honestly from a world building perspective, it's a little more respectful than you probably would expect from a Nintendo game. Another critique of the story is its use of the series' tropes or general poor writing. I do understand this complaint. It makes sense as a consumer of the story for what it is. Breath of the Wild story was not a strong suit either, but in my opinion, it made up for it with its world building. I would like to propose that Tears of the Kingdom's strong suit also lies in what is unsaid. While not as obvious or somber as Breath of the Wild, it still manages to tell a story with a strong emotional core through the use of hindsight. The power of Raru's character, for example, isn't what we are told directly, that he sacrificed himself to seal Ganon away, but the fact that upon reflection, he managed to hold him all the way up to the beginning of Tears of the Kingdom. That by itself informs you so much of his caring and trusting nature. Ganondorf is characterized as he is because he is more or less the embodiment of the calamities that have plagued the kingdom since its roots. He is important to the story as a walking metaphor for hatred itself. The writing is objectively poor, but it doesn't extend to the themes of the game, something I feel that Breath of the Wild also excelled at. There are plenty of seemingly glaring lore inconsistencies that seem jarring at first. Why are there shrines erected with blessings? Where did all the Shikatek go? Where have Sky Islands and Zelda been this whole time? These seemingly crazy lore inconsistencies are actually kind of decently to well explained in the Voice Memories app within, it's a peripheral that you get with the Nintendo Switch 2 version. Yeah, I don't think it's the most elegant solution to the problem, but it is very informative when you are able to use it. Learning about these historical mysteries from the perspectives of these characters is really rich and kind of improves the world building a ton. If you haven't looked into these, I think it would be really helpful for you to look into them. Some of them are kind of oddly explained, like the Shikatek, but they at least do have explanations. And I think this just snowballed from all the confusion about how they handled the calamity, because it's kind of harder to believe any of the other story elements when the calamity from Breath of the Wild seemed to not get as much respect, even though I don't believe that is the case. People think that the way the story was handled in Tears of the Kingdom was largely ripped from Breath of the Wild, and I just don't think that's the case, other than it being structurally very similar. Breath of the Wild was a book ending, an epilogue to an extremely old conflict by the time of its resolution. Tears of the Kingdom is more involved, as both you and Zelda work to claim victory in the present from your respective timelines. As such, this is more of an ending to the entire history of Hyrule's suffering. The world is moving on from the divine beast and the champions, not out of negligence, but a desire to grow and move on despite adversity. The story is definitely massively let down by its presentation. Above all else, I absolutely agree. There should have been much more care that the players discovered story beats in chronological order. But I really think this is just due to an over-dedication to Breath of the Wild's approach to storytelling. So, with all that hubbub out of the way, I think it's finally time to talk about why I think this story really works. Every mainline 3D Zelda game, from Ocarina of Time to Skyward Sword, has had a companion character that typically helps the player throughout their adventure. These characters make their impact on players due to their typical importance to the overall narratives of these games. I like to think of Zelda as the companion of Tears of the Kingdom. She has watched over you, Link, since the beginning of Breath of the Wild, and beyond even then. She has waited to reveal to you the secrets of the past through her painful memories, and shows you the root of every calamity in the history of this Hyrule. I can't understate the gravity of her sacrifice for Link. Hell, their sacrifices for each other. From even the very first playthrough, anything involving them stuck with me, and for the life of me, I could not put my finger on it. Despite not particularly treasuring the experience, moments involving Zelda, like Zelda's house, the Master Sword, or even her memories, sparked such a huge sense of pause in me. I think that by dissecting how the relationship as characters is handled in Tears of the Kingdom, it makes it easy to see what the developers wanted for this game's story, and the thematic richness that lies just beneath the surface. Zelda and Link begin their journey investigating Hyrule Castle's undergrounds, where they uncover the secrets of an ancient society called the Zonai. It's important to remember that up until this point, Link and Zelda have canonically been inseparable, traveling and establishing Hyrule's new beginnings together. As they descend deeper, a thick, deep, black and red fog envelop their feet, as they find the mangled corpse of a man seemingly writhing in pain, who we know to be Ganondorf. They soon face a tragedy destined to occur before they were even born, a personal calamity, the likes of which both of them are powerless to stop. As Link fails to catch Zelda, she vanishes into the ancient past, while Link is rescued by Roru's arm, the first king of Hyrule. They are separated once again, after a long period of peace. This is the closest the developers would probably ever let us get to a true confirmed relationship between the two. And when considering the themes of the game, it's obvious why. They are the Ouroboros, or cycle, of love that ties this game together. They follow each other over and over, looking for one another, while trying to do their part to bring the world together. Their love for one another is the sole thing responsible for holding off the calamity, and eventually absolves the world of evil. It's interesting then that the game chooses to separate them. Why separate the characters who make the game's themes of connection the most clear? I think the answer lies again in what isn't said directly to the player. Reading the game as an epilogue, the same as Breath of the Wild, does a disservice to the game in my opinion. Yes, I know that the story of Zelda takes place in the past, but really, the effect is more of a separation of space than time. Really, Zelda's story is just as active a component to the defeat of Ganondorf as Link's journey to unite the sages and lead an assault on the underground castle. Her grand sacrifice marks the eternal victory of Link, the one she loved and trusted most. As she soars the skies alone, waiting with the sword of evil's bane, Link himself journeys for her in search of the connection he lost, unknowing that she had still been with him the entire time. Because of his love for Zelda, it's inevitable that he would eventually see the truth of her tragedy and aim to free her from the burden she carried. Both of these events are connected in a way that is fundamentally different than Breath of the Wild's approach. That game made the champions a memoir of a final mistake before ruin. It told the haunting tales of failure and redemption. And until Link frees them, they are active prisoners of their mistakes. Zelda is a prisoner, but she is designated as such due to her love for her kingdom and her hero. She spends forever in the clouds, not as a fallen victim, but as an eternal blessing to the kingdom. As long as she was in those clouds, Ganondorf was always going to fail in his hateful conquest. This game, then, is about love as much as it is hate, peace as much as it is war. Tears of the Kingdom's story is special because it tells the story of Hyrule itself, of its beginning, middle, and end. Honestly, I think its approach is better than anything more straightforward we could have gotten, where the Divine Beast and prior champions remained more active in the game world. This game isn't really about the imprisoning war, or the sages, or even the calamity. It's about the eternal connections we share to the past, present, and future. And I'm not making this up. Something along these lines was definitely what the developers were thinking when designing this game. Satoru Takizawa, the art director at Nintendo EPD, states that the Ouroboros design on the cover, quote-unquote, was designed to represent several things at once, such as the white dragon and the black dragon, and at the same time the Ouroboros, which is a symbol of immortality and eternity. They wouldn't have simply included these symbols if it didn't tie the themes of the game together. The other sages are great examples as well. Tulin developing the Ouroboros of adulthood, Sidon the Ouroboros of trust, Riju the Ouroboros of leadership, Unobo the Ouroboros of responsibility, and Mineru the Ouroboros of history. They each reach into the past to advance into the future, and I think their individual themes, while lacking the writing to really make them shine, definitely do tell a story consistent with the story of this game in general. It's not perfect, but I think how they handled Zelda and Link's dynamic brings it home in a way that makes its passion shine forth. Call it mismanaged or misguided, and I would agree with you, but not void of anything to say or a rehash of Breath of the Wild.
Link, I will restore the Master Sword for you. I will care for it until the time comes. I will pour my sacred power into it. It will be the weapon that defeats the Demon King.
To become an immortal dragon is to lose oneself.
You must. Protect them all!
After completing all the tiers on the geoglyphs, learning of Zelda's sacrifice, we are brought to a scene in which Link, surrounded by silent princesses, looks up at the fragmented, lost Zelda that yearns for his arrival. He sees now what he is supposed to accomplish and makes it to her soon after that. Funny enough, right after I completed this memory, it began to rain in the game world, which made things extra dramatic. Chasing after Zelda in the rain 100% became one of my favorite Zelda moments of all time. This is the game's third act, in my opinion, and begins the victory of the world over evil. I found it so interesting that the Master Sword pull in this game is so intimate. While Link definitely has a personality in these games, it's often put to the side to showcase his more upright, more hero-esque qualities first. Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom in general are huge on making the player connect with Link first as just a player character. You often have to look into the details to find any other obvious personality traits. The voice memories do a great job at patching some of his character up, as well as general observations characters make of this Link. But I think this moment is a big one for his character. This moment is affectionate and quiet, reflecting Link's own nature, or even the nature of this moment between them. A sea of calm golden ocean surrounds the two, as the Master Sword slips free from Zelda's head. Their hair gently releasing the sword is almost sensual. I think this is canonically the reason stamina is used in this game instead of hearts. This isn't a test of the hero's might, it's a test of his person, of his refusal to let his love for Zelda or his respect for her sacrifice go. I think this is why the sword gently slips out of Zelda's head. It's as if the Master Sword serves as a metaphor for the both of them. Ever enduring, strong, yet filled with a deep sense of calm and purpose. As Link gives Zelda her long-deserved moment of reverence, he lifts the sword to the sky, a symbol of the conclusion Zelda knew in her heart Link would achieve. Ganondorf is officially fucked. This could only happen between those who truly care, for not only their kingdom, but for each other. Zelda was prepared to make this sacrifice, not out of any arbitrary notion of kingdom responsibility, but from her own commitment to love and her own trust of Link. Again, it's this Ouroboros of love that runs through the entire game, and it's the same one that rids Hyrule from the blight of Ganon.
You will have my strength to help you through her. Link, you are our final hope. I pray this sword reaches you in the future.
The story is rather simple when viewed as a flat series of events, but Tears of the Kingdom doesn't ask you to view it that way. It never does, and instead asks you, the player, to care for its story in the context of the world that you inhabit, to put yourself in the shoes of Link and feel his drive to purge the land he calls home from evil, to feel Zelda's longing to protect her kingdom's future, drifting among the ancient sky, for you to come up with your own conclusions on what that means to you. Of course, as with everything in Tears of the Kingdom, it allows you to not pay any attention to it as well. But that symphony of implied meaning personally let me explore the nature of its themes in a way I can't help but feel was completely intentional. Again, this isn't me saying that Tears of the Kingdom is a masterpiece of writing. Rather, that Tears of the Kingdom's philosophy is consistent, and in this particular playthrough, very emotionally impactful. It almost reminds me of Kingdom Hearts, the the way it champions emotion as a central driving force. That type of storytelling may not click with you, and that's fair, but crafting a world in which a story like this, from all shades of time, can live in harmony is something that deeply resonated with me this time around. The final battle with the demon dragon is probably one of my favorites in all of video games. Not because of the fight complexity or the structure, but because of the thematic collage on display. The absolute majesty of the moment was again lost on me during my first playthrough, scaling to the skies on top of what amounts to the pain and suffering the kingdom has endured for thousands of years, who also happens to embody the love the kingdom holds within its walls. The black, huge monster that has dictated and handed out that suffering again and again, who happens to love none but power. The clashing of these ideals as all of Hyrule watches with determination from below. I bet anxiety could not even begin to describe the average Hyrulean's experience during this time. The spirit of Rauru himself watching over you as your hands of justice. These cycles of pain and love that have finally come to a head. This is the true magic of Tears of the Kingdom. Not the new Sky Islands or the depths, not Ganondorf's new voice actor, not the new content that is brimming within the overworld itself, but what it means to you. When I say Tears of the Kingdom story is amazing, this is what I mean. The characters and the world itself write a story that you can only experience firsthand. As Link descends upon the demon dragon's crown, the secret stone that enables the will of their users shows itself upon his forehead. A final, desperate show of his will to control with force. Yet we all know it's for nothing. The hateful and powerful will he possesses, it will never fully rid the world of the love that will eventually destroy it. This Ouroboros will eventually consume itself whole. A love so magnificent, so incredibly all-encompassing, that even the separation of time itself cannot stop its victory. The demon dragon anguishes in its defeat, a defeat destined by a love millennia apart. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is not a perfect game. I left the second playthrough with honestly a better handle on my gripes with it, but I think it's a game that taught me the value of meeting a game where it is. Expectations can be a cruel thing, not only for the game, but for the gamers who enjoy these luxury pieces of tech. It almost caused me to miss what was poured into it, to buy into the belief that it was just a ginormous DLC pack for Breath of the Wild, to miss this version of Hyrule in its fullest glory. This isn't even going to cover the massive list of moments I rediscovered playing again, the amazing boss battles and interesting yet not so perfect dungeon design, the slow burn freedom of churning through the open air on top of a Zonai wing, the way seeing Tulin grow from his Breath of the Wild iteration into a true successor of the champion of the Rito, Rivali, instilled me with so much pride. There are just so many little moments that inform me of developer intentions, of the world's dedication to letting the player feel the love the developers felt making the game. I don't think Tears of the Kingdom is the future I want for Zelda games. Ideally, a smaller world with a less powerful toolkit could do wonders in allowing the adventure to pull from every part of the series' history. The discovery and hidden detail of the latest two games, along with the storytelling and dungeon design of older titles, could make for an experience that legitimately could rival Ocarina of Time. As long as the Zelda team is behind the next 3D entry, I'm excited for it. I'm hopeful that they can find a solution that feels right for every player. Until then, I'm very happy that I came around to this game.